Hey guys, so I had a question from a friend of mine that just got recently got into archery, and he was wanting to build some arrows. And something that he asked was, is a wrap necessary? Do I need a wrap? Are they purposeful or are they just aesthetic? The answer to that question is yes. Simply put, is yes. They serve an aesthetic purpose, and yes, they are purposeful in most cases in today's arrows. Um, so, for instance, I'll give the example. This Easton Axis here, this is an Easton Axis 5mm. They've got a very smooth coating on them, okay? And even with proper surface prep, cleaning it with acetone or whatever brand of cleaner you want to use, it's a very slick surface. So there's two things you can do. One is rough up the area where your fletching is going to go. I don't know about y'all, but I am not a big fan of taking a $12 arrow and taking something and sanding down right here back where the majority of the force is going to be enacted onto this arrow shaft. I'm not saying that you're going to have a catastrophic failure of your arrow, but it's just one of them things. I'm not a fan of doing that. So that is what dictates to me whether I'm going to use an arrow wrap or not, is the actual physical coating on the arrow. So for instance, Easton Axis, Injections, Full Metal Jackets, those lines of arrows have got really super slick coatings on there. So if you just go put a straight vane on here, you can have more of a susceptibility of the vane coming off once it hits a target or while it's going, through the air. Is it going to happen? I'm not going to sit here and tell you that it's a guarantee that your arrow is going to come off or your vane is going to come off if you don't have a wrap on here. I'm not sitting here telling you that. But I will say that it helps tremendously if you have an arrow wrap on there. And so the question came up, well, wraps add weight. Yes, wraps add weight, and they add weight to the end of the arrow that you don't necessarily want weight at, which is the back end, which is why there's a big, amongst experts, there's a big deal with longer wraps like this 7-inch here on this Bloodline, or a 4-inch like that's on this Easton Axis here. End of the day, your arrow wrap, whether you use one that's 7 inches, whether you use one that's 4 inches, they're going to add weight to your arrow. And I've never seen it add so much weight to an arrow that it caused problems downrange in a hunting arrow, okay, in a hunting setup. I could see if your livelihood is a competition shooter and you're shooting tournaments and so on, I could see where, having the possibility of having an unbalanced arrow would just, when you're in competition, every little thing aids in you winning, whether from arrow weight to nock alignment to everything like that. So wraps are one of those things that their purpose for me is they make my vanes hold on to my arrow more efficiently, and I have confidence knowing that my vanes are not going to get knocked off. I'm not going to have to re-vane or re-fletch rather arrows all the time. Also, another pro of having a wrap is If this arrow just had the bare shaft with the veins on it, and you're out hunting and you shoot, your arrow angle is coming in like this into the ground, and you're in some tall grass or something like that, it's going to be more difficult to find that arrow. So when you have stuff that has some high visibility to it, it makes it easier to see in the grass. And also, if you're just shooting, it gives you a better visual of where your arrow actually went, and just gives you better visibility and so on. And as you can see, this one sticks out like a sore thumb with the chartreuse and the blaze orange on there. And then this one, I changed it up a little bit just because the Easton Axis is a little bit heavier arrow, so I did go with a shorter wrap. Once again, you can see I went with something more aesthetic than I did like this one. This one had a purpose behind it. I can see it better. This one I went for a little bit of visual effects, and but the wrap is only there in this instance on this arrow. This wrap is only here so these veins adhere better to the arrow, and I can have confidence shot to shot that my veins are going to stay on. Other than that, if you have any questions, drop a comment down below. I'll be happy to help you as much as I can.